Hey Student Success, we are officially halfway done with our course. This video is for week 5, which is going to run officially from November 22nd through the 28th. However, depending on if you wrapped up week 4 already, I am, or depending again when you listen, have already opened week 5 a little early since it falls during the week of Thanksgiving, and I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to maybe get to it ahead of time if you wanted to enjoy those few days surrounding the holiday. So let me jump in, and as always, let me remind you of your Student Services Workshop assignment. We are very quickly approaching the end of the semester, and there is maybe only 3 or 4 workshops even offered at this point between now and the end of the semester. So please make sure you get back to your MyStark State. You look under Academic Support. Make sure that it stays logged in. Take a look at your Student Success workshops. And again, we are almost done with the semester. So depending on where you are, I mean, you may only have, I think, really just that one option at this point. There are some Student Leadership Academy things going on still. So if anyone has registered and taking those, that might be your option as well. But we're really down to the wire now in terms of these workshops. Okay, so again, let me go ahead and hop into week 5. Getting halfway done with the semester. It runs officially through the 22nd through the 28th. Although some of you will be viewing this early if you are trying to just get it out of the way in terms of being able to enjoy Thanksgiving. So this is a fairly small week. It's only one chapter, chapter 11, about taking control of your finances. And you'll see there are 2 assignments. There's no discussion forum. So you do not have to have a Wednesday night discussion forum, which is perfect for enjoying the holiday week. You don't have to make sure that you're hopping on by Wednesday to post in a discussion forum. Instead, your attendance will come from completing both of the assignments. So week 5 attendance is based on the completion of both of these assignments. If you only complete one, you'll get 50% attendance. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and click Materials folder. This is over chapter 11. I already have it pulled up here. There is no PowerPoint that goes along with this chapter, so instead I'm just going to kind of breeze through the pages and just talk about some highlights of the chapter. And then, as always, I encourage you to go back in and take a look more in depth at any particular area that you feel you would be most benefiting from. All right, so this is about money management, so taking control of your finances. So as always, there's like a quick self-assessment, some goals where you want to go with this concept and what this chapter is going to cover. So the reason that this is included in these type of classes is because a couple things, really. First, oftentimes for our younger students, this is the first time that they really have to think about money management in any capacity. If they're on college on their own, or they're even a CCP student. Second, even if you're not a traditional student, adding in college on top of your job or your kids or whatever other responsibilities you have going on adds another layer to your financial management. And so it really does apply no matter where you are in that kind of process of thinking about and handling your money. So there's lots of reasons for that, because now you're faced with, in some cases, thinking about your budget on your own for the first time, thinking about balancing how you're going to pay bills as well as your college costs, or trying to make sure you get your work schedule embedded with your school schedule and things like that. And so it's important to kind of consider that. And I know we're several weeks away from just the end of the semester in total. So some of you have been here all semester, so you might already have a good grasp on that. But I think that financial management is one of those things that you evaluate all the time. I've been, in charge of our family's finances for years and years, and I still feel like there are days or weeks or months or whatever it might be where I have to sit back and be like, well, shoot, should I be kind of allocating things differently in this way? Or should I be looking at how we're spending, on utilities in this way? So especially when you have children, it feels like as they age, you have to continually evaluate how you're spending your money. So no matter where you are, I do feel like this is an important concept to think about. So this section goes into kind of your goals. What are your goals as they relate to your finances? And so there's kind of like a little scenario there you can read, and what they did well, what you think they could be doing differently. And so some other things to think about, graduating without debt, thinking about internships, volunteering, taking on more classes versus working less, or vice versa. So there's also going to be a section about, making more or spending less. And again, that kind of needs versus wants activity, so to speak. Making money. So this is going to, and this is where the resume piece is going to fall in, as you're going to see with one of your assignments this week. So you want to be able to obviously make money either while you're in school and then when you leave. Obviously, this is why you're here. So you want to have your resume ready. You want to be able to have those kind of contacts and networks in place so that you are going to be able to get that job or that career a little bit more easily. And so this is going to talk about how while you're going to school, how jobs can both be helpful or hurtful. Now, there's a lot of research out there that says when you are a student, a full-time student in particular, working around 20 hours a week is the ideal amount of time to work. I know that might not be practical, and this is just overall. This is not like every single situation. But the research statistically says around 20 hours a week is the kind of sweet spot. Because if you're working more, you're going to be overwhelmed. If you're working less, you're going to have too much time on your hand, and that allows room for procrastination. So that's why they say around 20 hours is kind of the sweet spot to be working while you're going to school as well. So this section talks about kind of the different types of job opportunities while you're in college, what you can do to kind of help with that income potential. This section, if anyone struggles with this, spending issues, if you feel like you kind of need to rein it in. I know that I have done this exact little experiment before. I have taken a spending analysis where I will sit down with my checkbook or my bank statement or whatever it is at the time, and I will look through and I will say, okay, how much did I spend on gas this month? How much did I spend on our phone? Whatever, every single little transaction I would look at and see how much we spend, and that would tell me if I'm spending my resources wisely or not. And so that is something that is kind of a nice activity to think about. Are there areas that you tend to spend more on that you could cut back on, or are you doing a pretty good job? It's kind of like your time analysis, thinking about how you're spending your time and where you have more time to do things. Same idea with your money. And so this section goes into detail about, if this is something you need to think about, kind of just making sure you're spending smartly, ways to kind of get a hold on your spending habits. Again, if that's an issue, creating a budget, sticking to a budget, tracking your income, knowing what your income will be. This is also why it's important. And I know we've talked about this, the BLS.gov before, knowing what your salary is going to be. And my physical therapy search is in there from last time. So knowing what your starting salary could be is a great way to start thinking about kind of your plans for after you graduate in terms of paying back your loans or your kind of income to debt ratio, those kind of things. That's helpful to know as well. So this goes into more detail again about tracking expenses, paying attention to your expenses, both in life in general, as well as specifically as a student. And so lots of tips on balancing your budget, resources to do so, how to tweak it if it's not working, what to do if you get in trouble financially, and some tips on saving. This next section here is on credit cards. So again, if you feel like you could benefit from this section, definitely pay a little bit more attention on your own. So it's going to talk about like the pros and cons of credit cards, which I think a lot of us probably know, but you also want to make sure you're not falling into these debt traps with them. Speaking of, making sure that you're avoiding debt. Credit history and reports. One of the things I like to tell my students is to go to Google and do a free credit estimator, not a credit report, a free credit estimator, skip all the ads. Go to Free FICO. And this is it's not going to ask you for your name, your social, nothing. This is completely anonymous. And I am going to literally just click. I am not even, obviously, I think you should read the questions. I've done this before for my own. Okay, so just randomly clicking, that is my credit estimator. It's not my actual credit score, but it is a credit estimator. So this is going to be really helpful in kind of just knowing where you stand, because your credit score is going to play a big role in so many financial decisions. So you do want to kind of, know what that is. And then I would always recommend as well, like maybe going through your financial institution or getting one of your free credit reports and just keeping tabs on that, because you want to make sure that it's accurate and the information on there is accurate. So this section talks about the importance of credit cards and your credit history. And this goes through those different, how to get those access, those records. Identity theft is another issue that's another reason you want to keep up with your credit score, because it'll have like flags on your account and things like that. Suspicious activity. All right. Next section talks about financing college and looking ahead. So you want to know about the different types of ways to pay for college. Obviously, you're here, so you figured out some kind of way. So this will go into talking about like financial aid and how you go through that process, although hopefully you're somewhat familiar, but it is something you have to go through every year. You have to apply for financial aid every single year. Scholarship and grants would be great because you don't have to pay those back. And I'm going to show you in a minute where some scholarships are located. First is student loans and knowing the difference between a subsidized or unsubsidized. And that's going to walk you through some of those differences. Making sure that you borrow smartly. There was a time when I started here at the college over 10 years ago where they would allow students to take out like $20,000 for Stark State College. And as you guys know, it doesn't cost $20,000 to go here every year. It might cost, depending on how many classes you take, around 10. So that's $10,000 extra dollars that people were taking out that they weren't using for school. They were getting back, and then some people were not necessarily using it in the most appropriate ways. And this is what has kind of led to a lot of the crisis with the student loan that we're seeing now as an effect from about a decade ago. So you want to make sure that you're borrowing smartly and that you're also maybe taking advantage of other forms of income and ways to pay for college. So we're going to go ahead and go to the Stark State homepage, and under admissions, paying for college, we're going to go to scholarships. And on this section, this is going to talk to you, and I may have shown you this before, I apologize, since I teach so many different classes. Sometimes I can't remember if I showed you guys this. Even if I did, I think it's worth repeating. This is where you can go and get some scholarship information. So if we wanted to get a scholarship list here, these are all the scholarships that are right here at Stark State. You can kind of look and see the featured scholarships, and it's going to tell you some like GPA, credit hour income, credit hour like completions, requirements, or degree related scholarships. So if you're in a particular field, and there's a whole bunch underneath each of these degrees, or other scholarships. Click on this little button, scholarship application. This is all it is, y'all. This is it. It's so quick. And if it takes you 3 minutes to fill this out and you qualify for $250 or $500 or whatever case is, I think that's time well spent. Now, there are some external scholarships, which I think a lot of people think of when they think of scholarships and like essays and things like that. Yes, some scholarships that are outside of Stark State College, you might have to write essays or do a more thorough application process. But again, if it takes you maybe 2 or 3 hours to come up with like a scholarship essay, whether it's just like 1 page or 5 pages, so maybe it takes you a couple days, but it gives you like $2,000. I mean, I think that's time well spent. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that because sometimes money literally just sits there waiting for students to take advantage. All right, so that's the chapter. So now let's talk about your assignments. 2 assignments this week. Basics of money management. Makes sense, right? It ties right in with everything we just got done talking about. This work is going to actually take place outside of Blackboard. So you're going to go to this website right here, Ohio Means Jobs. When you get to this page, you're going to scroll down, Basics of Money Management. You're going to click right there. Once you're at this page, you're going to see that there is a PDF. Once you get to that page, it's going to pick up for you. Okay. You're going to click on Basics of Money Management, and it's going to bring you to this page. And again, this is where you can see the PDF kind of picks up, so it can walk you through this way. You are going to go through these different lessons of the money management. You can see like they're not terribly long. Even when you click in here, you can see these pages aren't that long. You know, step 1, step 2. It shouldn't take you terribly long to go through here. There's a summary, there's a whole course summary, and here's a post test. This is what you're going to actually submit. You're going to take your post test and you're going to make sure that, you answer all the questions and you hit next because there are 10 questions. You want to make sure that when you're done, you hit, submit. Then you're going to score your test. And again, the PDF is going to walk you through this. See, score your test. You want to make sure that all of your questions have been answered. And it's going to give you kind of your results there. And then certificate of completion. Certificate of completion is going to be there. So again, you're going to score your test. Obviously, I didn't answer any of it, so I'm not going to score it. But you're going to make sure all of those are checked, and you're going to hit score. Then you're going to type on certificate of completion. It's going to pop up and it's going to ask you for your name. It's going to give you your certificate of completion and your name is going to be plugged in there because you entered it right there. And you're going to make sure you save it as a PDF. If you are having trouble saving it as a PDF, especially maybe if you have a Mac, again, sometimes Macs are not always compatible with this, take a screenshot. Just a screenshot will do. But this is what you're going to turn in, this certificate of completion. So you'll go in, click here, and do a Dropbox. Browse your files, find it, hit open, and submit. Okay, so that is your basics of money management. That's due Sunday. All right, your next assignment is chapter 11, and you're going to have two options for this. Your first option is if you do not have a resume already. So if you do not already have a resume, you are going to answer these two questions. Make a list of 5 experiences, so things you have done, places you have worked, experiences like internships, volunteer, whatever. So things you have done, that's an experience. 5 qualifications, those are things you have. What kind of skills do you have that are going to make you marketable? And 3 references. You don't have to put names, but like maybe your high school English teacher, a former boss, whatever it might be. So just, you don't have to name them, just maybe their title. So you're making a list, 5 experiences, 5 qualifications, and 3 references. Then for number 2, what kind of job, internship, or anything else could you potentially have now that will strengthen your resume? So what should you be doing or thinking about now until you graduate that's going to strengthen your resume? Maybe that might be an internship. Maybe it's going to be joining a club or organization on campus because it can have some networking opportunities. Maybe it's going to be you get a part-time job. Whatever it might be, you're going to answer those 2 questions, okay? So that is if you do not have a resume. And you can just click right in here, write submission, and type it right here. That's all you have to do. Option 2 is if you do have a resume. If you already have a resume, you can upload your resume in here. So you can go in here and you can browse, find your resume. And then if it does not contain one of or a couple of these things, then tell me, I also need to make sure that I add this person as a reference. Or I also need to make sure that I don't forget to write down that I have, qualifications in data management or whatever it might be. Or maybe you need to answer this question still. What else do you need to add to your resume to strengthen it? So that might be what you want to target on. It's like, okay, this is my resume. I know that I need to strengthen it by doing X, Y, Z. That's the second option. So if you don't have a resume, you are answering these 2 questions. If you do have a resume, you can upload your current resume and just make sure you fill in, like, where is your resume lacking? What could be used to strengthen your resume? That is also due Sunday. Okay, so as a quick recap, you are looking at chapter 11 a little bit more in depth this week on the basics of money management, taking control of your finances. And you are completing these 2 assignments, the basics of money management, where you upload your certificate, and chapter 11 assignment that relates to your resume. Both are due by Sunday for week 5 attendance. Let me know if you have questions. Have a great Thanksgiving.